8%. That is how much muscle a healthy adult can quietly lose every 10 years after the age of 40. And here is the part that should stop you cold. You can be eating protein, taking your supplements, and going for your daily walk, and still lose it. A man in his 70s came into my emergency room last winter after a fall in his own kitchen. He had not tripped on anything. There was no wet floor, no loose rug. His legs simply stopped holding him up. When we ran his blood work, it was clean. His diet, on paper, looked careful. But when I asked him what he ate first thing every morning, the whole picture changed. He was feeding his muscles the exact breakfast almost designed to leave them starving, and he was skipping the single most important signal that tells an aging body to hold on to the muscle it still has. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I am going to show you 5 common breakfast foods that quietly work against your muscles, 5 foods that actually rebuild them, and one simple 30-second test you can do in a kitchen chair tonight to see exactly where your own muscles stand right now. I have spent years in emergency medicine, and if there is one thing that quietly ends people's independence, it is not a single dramatic event. It is muscle. I have watched strong, capable people lose the ability to get off the floor, to climb their own stairs, to carry a bag of groceries, and almost none of them saw it coming. Because muscle loss does not hurt. It does not show up as a symptom you can point to. It just slowly takes things away, one small ability at a time. The medical name for it is sarcopenia. That word simply means the gradual loss of muscle mass and strength that comes with age. It is not a disease you catch. It is a slow drift, and it speeds up as you get older. The muscle you lose in your 40s comes off slowly. By your 60s and 70s, that same loss accelerates, which is exactly when people start noticing they feel weaker, shakier, and less steady on their feet. Now, before we go any further, I need to clear up something, because there is a claim floating around the internet that you may have heard. You may have seen people say that older adults lose 40% of their muscle every single year. Let me be very direct with you, because your trust matters more to me than a scary number. That figure is simply not true. If it were, almost no one would be able to stand up after a couple of years. The honest, well-documented number is that you can lose up to around 8% of your muscle per decade, and it picks up speed after 60. 8% per decade does not sound as dramatic, but that is the point. The real threat was never dramatic. It is quiet. It is steady. And quiet is exactly why people miss it until they are already in trouble. So here is what I want to do differently in this video. I am not going to hand you a list of foods to fear. I am going to show you why your breakfast either sends your muscles a build signal or a starve signal, first thing in the morning, when it matters most. Because that is the real mechanism almost no one explains. Let me show you what is actually happening. Here is the reframe that changes everything, and it is the first piece of new information most people never hear. As you age, your muscles become harder of hearing. Scientists call this anabolic resistance, which is a fancy way of saying that older muscle needs a louder signal to do the same job younger muscle did easily. When you were 30, a small amount of protein was enough to switch on muscle building. In your 60s and 70s, that same small amount barely registers. Your muscles are still willing to rebuild. They just need you to knock harder on the door. Think of it like an old porch light with a loose connection. When the wiring was new, a light tap on the switch turned it on. Years later, that same light tap does nothing. You have to press firmly and deliberately for the light to come on. Your morning protein is that switch, and most breakfasts tap it far too gently to wake anything up. There are 2 things that press that switch firmly. The first is enough protein at a single sitting, concentrated, not scattered. The second is a specific building block inside protein called leucine. Leucine is the amino acid that acts like the actual finger on the switch. Below a certain amount of it in one meal, the light does not come on at all. Above it, muscle building flips on. For an older adult, most experts land on somewhere around 25 to 30 grams of quality protein per meal to cross that threshold. And here is the quiet problem. The average older person's breakfast contains almost none of it. That is the real reason the breakfast foods I am about to name work against you. Not because they are poison, not because of some secret toxin, but because they fill your plate at the one meal of the day when your muscles are most desperate for that firm, protein-rich signal, and they leave the switch untouched. Every morning you do that, your body spends the day leaning slightly toward breakdown instead of repair. It is small, but small, repeated every single morning for years, is exactly how 8% a decade happens. So let me walk you through the 5 breakfasts that leave that switch in the off position. I am going to rank them, roughly, from the ones that simply do nothing for your muscles, up to the ones that actively make the problem worse. And after each one, I will tell you the simple swap, so you are never left with a problem and no solution. Number 5, the mildest offender, is plain toast or a plain bagel on its own. Here is what happens. White bread breaks down quickly into sugar, and that is fine on its own, but that is all it delivers. There is almost no protein and essentially no leucine in 2 slices of toast. So you have eaten, your stomach is full, and your muscles got nothing to work with. It is like sitting down at your workbench, ready to build, and opening a toolbox that is completely empty. The fix is not to throw out the toast. It is to never let bread stand alone in the morning. Put 2 eggs beside it, or a scoop of Greek yogurt, and suddenly that same breakfast presses the switch. Number 4 is coffee on an empty stomach as your whole breakfast. Now, I am not here to take your coffee away, and you will notice I am being careful here, because I have seen a lot of scare videos about morning coffee that overstate things. Coffee itself is not destroying your muscles. The problem is what coffee replaces. When a strong cup of coffee kills your appetite and becomes a stand-in for breakfast, you sail past the entire morning with 0 protein in your system, right through the hours when your body is deciding whether to build or break down. The coffee is not the villain. The empty plate behind it is. The fix is simple. Keep the coffee. Just never let it be the only thing you have before noon. Anchor it to a real protein. Number 3 is processed breakfast meat. The bacon, the breakfast sausage, the deli ham people grab because, in fairness, they are reaching for protein. And this one is genuinely a mixed bag. So let me be honest with you rather than dramatic. Processed meats do give you some protein, which is more than toast alone. But 2 things hold them back. The portions are usually small, so you rarely reach that 25 to 30 gram threshold from a couple of thin strips. And the bigger issue is the company they keep. Processed meats are high in sodium, and for the huge number of older adults managing blood pressure, a daily salt load every morning is working against a system you are probably already trying to protect. This is where it stops being only about muscle and becomes about the whole picture. The fix is to lean on fresher protein most mornings, sliced leftover chicken or turkey or eggs, and keep the bacon as an occasional pleasure rather than the daily engine of your breakfast. Number 2 is the one that genuinely surprises people because it is marketed as the perfect senior breakfast. Oatmeal made with skim milk. Now, I want to be fair because oatmeal is not bad for you. It is good for your heart and it is good for your cholesterol, and if that is your goal, keep it. But here is the catch that nobody mentions. A bowl of oats made with skim milk is almost entirely carbohydrate, with only a small amount of protein, and it is nowhere near the leucine threshold your aging muscles need in the morning. You feel full and virtuous, and your muscles still got a whisper when they needed a firm knock. And notice something. I am not going to repeat the internet myth that skim milk somehow pulls calcium out of your muscles. That is not real, and I am not going to insult you with it. The real, boring, true problem is simply this. It is a low-protein breakfast wearing a healthy costume. The fix is easy and delicious. Stir a scoop of plain Greek yogurt or a spoon of protein into that oatmeal. Swap the skim milk for a protein-rich milk and top it with nuts. Same bowl, but now the switch turns on. And number 1, the breakfast that does the least for your muscles while pretending to do the most, is the bowl of refined breakfast cereal with skim milk. Here is the honest reason it lands at the top of this list. It combines everything we have talked about. It is fast-digesting sugar, it has very little protein, it has essentially no meaningful leucine, and the box is covered in health claims that make you feel you have already done the right thing, so you stop looking. It is the perfect trap, not because it is toxic, but because it is convincing. You believe you fed your muscles, and you did not. The fix is the same principle as everything else. If cereal is your comfort, keep a small bowl, but build the meal around a real protein first: eggs, yogurt, or cottage cheese, and let the cereal be the side, not the star. So notice the pattern under all five. Not one of these foods is poisoning you. The problem is identical every time. They occupy the most important muscle meal of your day and leave the switch untouched. Which means the solution is not fear. It is one simple rule you can carry for the rest of your life. Never eat a breakfast that does not contain real protein. That single sentence, applied every morning, quietly turns the tide. But before I give you the 5 foods that actively press that switch, I have to tell you about the second signal, because this is the piece the original wisdom on this subject almost always leaves out, and without it, even a perfect breakfast will not be enough. Here is the truth that food companies will never put on a cereal box. Food does not build muscle by itself. Protein is the bricks, but bricks stacked in a pile do not become a wall. You need a builder telling your body where to put them and why it should bother. And in muscle, that builder is not a food at all. It is a signal that says, this body is being asked to do hard things, so keep this muscle, it is needed. That signal has a name. It is resistance. Loading your muscles against something that pushes back. And this is the single biggest thing missing from almost every video you will ever see about muscle-building foods. You can eat perfect protein at every meal, and if you never once ask your muscles to work against a real load, your body has no reason to keep them. It is like paying for a gym membership and a personal trainer and then never lifting anything. The nutrition is only half the deal. I want to be very clear because I know some of you are picturing a crowded gym and heavy barbells and thinking that is not for me. That is not what I am asking. The evidence here is not about becoming an athlete. It is about giving your muscles a reason to exist, and that can be astonishingly simple. Standing up out of a chair without using your hands is resistance training. Carrying your groceries instead of using a cart is resistance training. Rising onto your toes at the kitchen counter, pressing your palms against a wall, squeezing a soft ball, climbing one flight of stairs on purpose. Every one of those is you telling your body, keep this muscle. The 2 levers that actually reverse muscle loss, according to the strongest evidence we have, are these and only these 2, working together: enough protein and resistance. There is no pill for this. There is no FDA-approved drug that rebuilds age-related muscle. I say that not to discourage you, but to free you, because it means the 2 most powerful tools are already in your hands. They are free, and you can start both of them tomorrow morning. So here is the small action I want you to take, and it doubles as the self-check I promised you at the beginning. It is called the 30-second chair stand. Find a sturdy dining chair against a wall so it cannot slide. Sit down, feet flat, arms crossed over your chest so you cannot cheat by pushing with your hands. Then, for 30 seconds, stand all the way up and sit all the way down as many times as you safely can. Count them. Here is roughly how to read it. And please hear me say roughly, because this is a screen, not a diagnosis. If you are in your 60s and you can do around 14 or more, that is a reassuring sign of good leg strength. If you are in your 70s and you land somewhere around 12, that is holding steady. But if you can only manage a handful, if you find yourself needing your hands to push off, or if you cannot do it at all, that is not something to panic about, but it is something to pay attention to. That is your body telling you the switch has been off for a while, and it is time to start pressing it. Write your number down today and test yourself again in 1 month. Watching that number climb is one of the most motivating things I have seen patients experience, because for the first time, they can see their own strength coming back. Now, with both signals in mind, protein and resistance, let me give you the 5 foods that press that switch the hardest. Number 1 is plain Greek yogurt, and it earns the top spot for a simple reason. It is one of the easiest ways in the world to cross the leucine threshold before you have even fully woken up. A single cup delivers around 20 grams of complete protein, roughly double what regular yogurt gives you, and it is rich in exactly the amino acid that flips the muscle switch on. Choose plain and full fat, not the sugary flavored cups, because the fat helps your body absorb the vitamins that ride along with it, and the added sugar in flavored versions works against everything else you are trying to do. Add a handful of walnuts or almonds and a few berries, and you have a breakfast that presses the switch firmly in under 2 minutes of effort. Number 2 is eggs, and eggs are the gold standard for a reason. They contain every essential building block your muscles need, in almost perfect proportion, and your body absorbs that protein about as efficiently as any food on Earth. 2 eggs is a genuinely strong start to the morning. Eat the whole egg, not just the whites, because the yolk carries the vitamin D and the healthy fats. And vitamin D matters here more than most people realize, since it plays a direct role in muscle strength and is one of the most common deficiencies I see in older adults. Scramble them, poach them, soft-boil them, it barely matters. What matters is that they are on your plate most mornings. Number 3 is a food most people think of as a healthy fat and never as a muscle food, and that is the avocado. Now, an avocado is not a protein source, so let me be honest about why it is on this list. It is a helper. It is loaded with potassium, more than a banana, which matters for muscle function and for the many of you managing blood pressure. And its healthy fats help your body absorb the fat-soluble vitamins from the rest of your breakfast. Mash half of one onto your eggs and you have turned a good muscle breakfast into a great one. It is the supporting actor that makes the whole plate work better. Number 4 is lean poultry, turkey or chicken. And I know it sounds unusual at breakfast, but stay with me, because this is one of the most powerful and underused tricks I give my patients. A few ounces of leftover chicken or turkey from last night's dinner, sliced into your morning eggs, delivers one of the most concentrated, high-quality protein hits you can get, easily clearing that 25 to 30 gram threshold in one shot. It is affordable, it takes no extra cooking because it is already done, and it turns a decent breakfast into a serious one. If cold sliced chicken at breakfast feels strange, warm it in with the eggs. Your muscles do not care what time the clock says. Number 5 is the one people find most surprising, and it is nuts and seeds. Here is why they close out the list. On their own, they will not hit your protein target, so do not rely on them as your main course. But they bring something the others do not. Almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and chia carry the minerals magnesium and zinc, which quietly support the machinery your body uses to turn protein into muscle, along with healthy fats that help calm the low-grade inflammation that speeds muscle loss in the first place. A small handful stirred into your yogurt or scattered over your oatmeal is the finishing touch. And there is a reason this kind of food shows up again and again in the world's longest-lived communities. It is not magic. It is a small, steady, daily contribution that adds up over years, in exactly the same quiet way the damage adds up when you skip it. Now, I have to add one honest caution here, because being trustworthy means telling you when a rule has an exception. Most older adults do not eat enough protein, and adding more is one of the safest, best things they can do. But if you have kidney disease, this is different for you. Your body may need protein handled carefully, and the right amount is a conversation to have with your own doctor, not a number from a video. So if that is you, do not just double your protein because I said so. Bring this up at your next appointment and ask what target is right for your kidneys. That one caveat aside, for most people the risk is eating far too little, not too much. Let me also be clear about when muscle weakness is something to simply act on at home and when it is a reason to actually pick up the phone, because those are not the same thing. If you are gradually noticing that stairs feel harder, that getting out of a low chair takes effort, or that your grip is not what it was, that is the slow drift of sarcopenia, and the answer to that is the protein and the resistance we just covered. Start at home. But if muscle weakness comes on suddenly, over hours or a day or two, especially on one side of your body, or if it comes with slurred speech, a drooping face, numbness, or trouble breathing, that is not sarcopenia, and it is not something to watch. That is a call 911 situation, immediately, and you should not drive yourself. And in between those two, if you have had unexplained weakness that is getting worse over weeks, along with unplanned weight loss or falls, that deserves a real appointment with your primary care doctor. This week, not someday. Weakness is common. Sudden weakness is an emergency. Knowing the difference could save your life or someone you love. Here is the part that matters most. So if you remember nothing else from these 20-some minutes, remember this. Your muscles are not failing because you are old. They are drifting because two signals stopped arriving. The first signal is protein, real protein, first thing in the morning, enough to knock firmly instead of tapping gently. The second signal is resistance, asking your muscles to do something hard on purpose, even something as small as standing up from a chair without your hands. Send those two signals, and an aging body will fight to keep its strength. Stop sending them, and it quietly lets that strength go. So the pattern to carry with you is this. When you sit down to breakfast, ask one question. Where is my protein? If the answer is nowhere, you have found the leak. And when you get up from that breakfast, ask your muscles to do one hard thing. That is the whole blueprint. Protein on the plate, a load on the muscle, every single day. And you do not need to do all of it perfectly starting tomorrow. That is not how this works, and anyone who tells you it is selling something. You are not looking for perfection. You are looking for the pattern to bend in the right direction. So here is your one small action. The only thing I am asking you to do today. Tonight, do the 30-second chair stand test. Count your number and write it down where you will see it. Then tomorrow morning, add one real source of protein to your breakfast. Just one. 2 eggs, a cup of Greek yogurt, some leftover chicken. That is it. One number written down, one protein added. Those two small things, starting tomorrow, are how you begin to feel steadier, stronger, and years younger than the calendar says. Do the test tonight, and then come back in a month and do it again. Your body will show you the proof.